Now, new at 10, another Trump administration policy could lead to the cancellation of the Festival of Nations. A funding freeze is threatening the popular summer celebration. Now, organizers are trying to plan their next steps. Our Kimberly Donahue is live in the studio. Kim, you spoke with businesses and a consultant for several restaurants that participate in the festival.
Melanie, I'm told this festival can generate around 10% of a vendor's yearly profit. But the International Institute, the host of the festival, tells me the withholding of federal funding affects programs beyond the festival.
When you think of an event like Festival of Nations or the many other events we have around the city, that is the culture of the city. It's what makes St. Louis great.
But now Akeem Shannon says his restaurant clients are worried about what kind of year they'll have financially, with uncertainty surrounding the future of the Festival of Nations. He says one restaurant he works with, that's a regular vendor at the festival, received this email Friday stating in part, due to executive orders by President Donald J. Trump, we must postpone the release of vendor applications. In addition, the vendor information meeting scheduled for Monday, February 10th will be canceled until further notice. As of January 31st, the entire Festival of Nations team has been furloughed.
It's really the biggest restaurant event, food and culinary event of our city. You know, you have 150,000 people, $1 to $2 million of economic impact on the city. So, yeah, I mean, it's a big deal for a lot of restaurants here.
The International Institute, the host of the festival, confirmed to First Alert 4 there is a temporary staff furlough affecting more than 60% of their staff across Missouri as of February 1st, and that the staff leading Festival of Nations is part of that furlough. Going on to say in a statement, quote, "This difficult decision comes in direct response to recent and unprecedented actions by the federal administration that have halted key immigration programs, including refugee reception and placement, and cast uncertainty over the release of funding for all other federal funding for our programs. Without assurances that the federal government will release the money to our organization that has been promised by acts of Congress, we must make this unfortunate, immediate, and drastic action." Meantime, Akeem is advising his clients to plan ahead.
Look at other events in St. Louis and outside of St. Louis. We know that not every event organization will be affected by that government funding that may dry up. So, yeah, it's always looking for the next opportunity.
The spokesperson for the International Institute told me in spite of the freeze in federal funding, they will keep serving clients in line with their obligations, but how they deliver the service will be changing in the coming days. I asked the International Institute if the Festival of Nations will still happen this year. The spokesperson told me for now they're just delaying planning. The organization doesn't have an effective end date to the furlough. In the studio, Kimberly Donahue, First Alert 4.
Thank you so much, Kimberly.